We are here with Ryan Pilla, the builder of the 2160 Mazda Miata that set the world speed record of 165,269.
That's right.
That's right.
Going to 160. That was Harvey's goal at the time. The world record was 157 and change. And Harvey came to me, and he was almost 80 years old, and he said that he, listen, I understand you're the Mazda Miata guru,
Yep.
which I was at the time. Now I'm an old man trying to keep up with the youngsters. But he said that he wanted to break a world record by his 80th birthday.
Great.
So we started the endeavor, and we jumped right into it. And
Was this the first land speed car that you'd built?
It was. And it was tough. It was tough in the way of, keeping up with all of the instructions and directions and rules and regulations.
Yeah.
And when we went out there was heavy scrutiny on these cars.
Yeah.
We were the rookie.
And are there a lot of changes on the body? And obviously we know about the engine, we'll talk about that, but
Sure.
As far as, just taking a Mazda Miata MX5 to a land speed car, what were the big things that had to be done?
Well, the car's an amazing car as a Mazda factory car before you even touch it, right? That's why we're here today. That's why it's the #1 racing car in the United States. At all levels, at all talents. But the coefficient of drag that it has and the hole that it punches in the air is amazing.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe the faster you went with this car, and I don't know what the limits were because we didn't test them. I'd like to try to. We spoke to Harvey actually recently, and I believe he'll be 90 this upcoming year. And he said, I asked him, I said, what do you think about going 200? And he said, well, put something in front of me, and maybe you and my son can do it, Luke. And Luke is the person that we put in the car, and
Yep.
he broke the world record.
Yep.
But it was very stable out there, and it was amazing what it did. There was definitely strategy out there too,
Right.
in the way of that, whether it was early morning or the sun was at high noon or in the afternoon, because the salt was either more moist and wet or
Yeah.
harder and more compact.
So it sounds like that change of environment presented a lot of challenges for running the car.
It really did. It really did. And obviously then Mother Nature, upwind and downwind, the wind component. And then obviously being that you're out there, out west, you have density, altitude, pressure, altitude components that, you're changing air-fuel mixture constantly.
Right.
So
from the morning, if you guys ran in the morning, it'd be different in the afternoon,
way
and you've got to
different.
make a lot of mapping changes on the engine.
way
to accommodate
different.
that.
And even the contact patch on this small tire, whether it was more moist and soft or harder, you would be running on more of the center line of the tire, a little bit wider, creating more drag. And there was a lot of variables. And then the officials just scrutinizing left and right, and make this change, being that we were the rookie, and then we were the first person that took a Miata to do this as
Right.
well. So, but it all worked out. It was an amazing experience. It's an amazing car. Harvey and the Siegel family are amazing people. It was amazing to work with them. Real special privilege to do it. And I'd love to go back and do it again. And I'm looking forward to it.
So it sounds like somebody's going to take this car back to Bonneville for sure. Maybe it'll be you and Harvey again, maybe somebody else.
I encourage the person that does become the new owner to look me up, because I'm ready and willing to go back and go to the next class, the force inducted class.
All right, before we get there,
Sure.
we've got some technical questions that have come
Sure.
up on this. So we know that the rear end, the diff now is the 4.3 torsion rear end.
Yep, 430, yep.
We had questions about what you guys ran at Bonneville. What was the gearing that you ran there?
So we ran, we had 411s and we had 430s, but we also had a different fifth gear, right? So this motor is a all day long 9,000 RPM motor, right? It's 14.5 to 1 compression. And at sea level, it made close to 300 horse. It was a high 290 horsepower. When we went out there with density, altitude, pressure, altitude, and everything, the car, you know, was somewhere around 250 horsepower.
Just from the change of the place.
Just from the change of the atmosphere. Yeah, I mean, the analogy is with an airplane. You know, you take off at Aspen or take off in Long Island, where I'm from, in Watermill at East Hampton Airport, and I'm a pilot, I fly planes. And, you know, you need another 1,000 or 1,500 feet of actual runway to take off because the air is so bad.
Yeah. So same thing with land speed
Same thing with
racing.
land speed record. You know, it's all the amount of air fuel that you can shove down the throat, but if you don't have the proper, you know, parameters and adaptations, you become handicapped, and a lot of changes need to be made.
So of course, with any car, engine is primary, right? So let's talk about this engine, because everybody loves to look at it, see it, hear the story of it. So first of all, 4-cylinder inline engine making 290 horsepower.
Yep, starting off as a 1.8 liter, a 100% stock motor. Again, rewinding for a second, you know, what's unique about going back with this car and force inducting it to the new owner is that when you force induct something, you don't lose manifold pressure. Okay, so once we get a turbocharger, supercharger, whatever the forced induction component is, we'll be able to go out there, and then the density, altitude, and pressure altitude won't affect us as much because now we're force inducting the motor. Gotcha. We're not relying on just the ambient air.
Right.
So, but back to this engine, it was built, I'm not sure if I can say this, but built to the balls, to the max. And there was nothing that wasn't done to it. The machine work is endless that was done. It ended up being 14.5 to 1 compression.
Pretty high.
14.5 to 1 compression. All the engine guys out there and all the wrenches out there know that is as close to flame front as possible. So that's it was pretty unique. I mean, it was built as much power as possible out of that size cubic inch motor.
And so the car itself and that motor,
or liter for that matter.
Yeah, and taking it, so your feeling is this car can go faster.
So what we learned, even if we didn't go force induction, hey, let's just go out and try to break Harvey's record, which would be a cool component too for anyone to do. What we can do is, which we didn't do, and now that I'm more educated, being that it was the first time to do it, is we can play with different final gear ratios, and I can play with fourth gear 1-to-1, but I can play with fifth gear being different. And I would do a shorter gear in fifth. Shorter means more RPMs, taller means less RPMs, right? So it's like a 10-speed bike. The little gear, right, is all the top end, and the big gear is you pedaling uphill. Yeah. Right? So same concept with a differential component. But I would change the fifth gear, and changing the fifth gear would allow us to stay on the camshafts. The trick to this car is when you were shifting from fourth to fifth, 1, 2, 3, 4 were all good. Motor pulled everything perfectly. When you went to fifth, being that we were trying, you know, in overdrive gear now, we actually, when fourth gear was shift to fifth and you pulled it, or put it up to the right, it was very hard to stay on the cams. So if we had a shorter gear, our RPMs would be higher when we shift the gear, and we would stay on the cams, so it would pull quicker and earlier. With that said, that component, that speed of you know, upwind, downwind, 165 and change, I think it could easily reach in the low 190s. With that said, when I went in the car, I actually went 174.
Yeah, we've seen the footage of that, of the GPS tracker with that.
Yeah. So I got in it, and I was able to, for lack of better words, power shift the car, keep the RPMs up higher. So I was able to just that 150, 200 RPMs to stay on the camshafts, to stay in the sweet spot of the motor, so it would pull and start pulling earlier and harder. So right now, putting that fifth gear in there, a different fifth gear, now that we have all the stats and math on everything, I know the car is capable of doing 190.
So you guys set a rookie record, which is really just an amazing thing. But now, with what you've learned about the car on that attempt, after setting the record, you know that you could take it higher.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. But I think once we get to that 188, 189, 190 with the car, a lot happens between 190 and 200. It's incrementally, right?
Yeah.
It takes that much more to keep on going. It was really cool to be able to take the Land Speed record car and turn it into a spec Miata afterwards, and going to Harvey Siegel's home track, you know, and a track that he spent a good portion of his life building.
Right.
An amazing accomplishment.
Talking about Virginia International Raceway.
Virginia International Raceway, and, you know, also New Jersey Motorsports Park as well. And then we brought the car there and we did the 13-hour with it. And the car was flawless. And it was a seamless thing. So the next person that does get the car, the beauty of the technology and the engineering of the Mazda Miata is that you can do what we did as well. So we can actually, you know, take that motor out and put a spec Miata or back and forth. So it's a very, you know, universal, versatile car. And it handled amazing. I mean, we had spec suspension on it, you know, for the Land Speed record. And, you know, what did we do to turn it into a spec Miata and make it live and be reliable for 13 hours? We stuck another Mazda motor in it. And we passed tech, and we were compliant, and we were legal, and we did real well.
Well, hats off to you, to Mazda,
Pleasure. Yep.
the whole Team Siegel who achieved the record. It's a great story. It's a great achievement.
It was a fantastic experience.
It's a great build. Yep. And thanks for sharing all of your insights
pleasure.
on a great race weekend here at Lime Rock Park.
Pleasure. Thank you.